Chosen one, you are not here by accident. Heaven ordered your steps, aligned your timing, and pulled your spirit into this moment with divine precision. What you are hearing right now is not a coincidence. It is a prophetic summons. The veil has lifted. The atmosphere around you is shifting, and the word that is about to be released carries the weight of heaven itself. Anointed one, you are standing at the threshold of a supernatural breakthrough, a moment written long before you were born. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, as it is written in Habakkuk 2:3, and that appointed time is now. Chosen one, the delay has broken. The drought has ended. The heavens are opening over your life in this very hour. A divine transfer, a sudden elevation, a release of wealth that eyes have not seen and ears have not heard is moving towards you with unstoppable force. You have been refined, tested, stretched, and prepared for this precise moment. Feel this in your spirit. The old season is collapsing. A new mantle is descending. Tonight, God declares it is your turn. Step into this word with reverence and expectation, because what happens next will alter the trajectory of your entire destiny. Chosen one, as you listen to these words, something in your spirit is already stirring, because heaven has been moving around you in ways you couldn't see, preparing you for a moment that arrives only once in a generation. You are not here by coincidence. I feel this deeply, because I too have known what it means to wait, to wonder, to question whether the promise was ever meant for me. I've stood in the quiet places where nothing seemed to change, yet something inside whispered that God was working behind the scenes. And now, chosen one, I recognize that same whisper rising in you, because you are standing at the edge of a supernatural turning point that will redefine everything you thought possible. Tonight is not ordinary. This is the kind of night that becomes a marker in your story the moment you look back on and say, that was the hour heaven intervened. I say this with reverence, because I have lived through seasons where everything appeared still and silent, only for God to move suddenly and sweep away every limitation. When heaven moves, it moves quickly. Chosen one, and you are in the direct path of a divine acceleration you may not feel ready for. Billions, or for a wealth shift so massive it alters the atmosphere around your life. Yet God has been preparing you quietly through every struggle, every unanswered prayer, every moment you kept going when quitting would have been easier. Those weren't delays. They were shaping. They were alignment. They were proof that you could carry what others would collapse under. Chosen one, I have learned through my own wilderness seasons that God does not choose those who look perfect, CT on the outside. He chooses the ones survived storms they never spoke about. He chooses the ones who kept believing when everything suggested they should stop. And that is why heaven has singled you out. You carry a resilience wrapped in humility, a faith forged in fire. And that combination is rare. Only one ever reaches this spiritual threshold where heaven releases what eyes have not seen and ears have not heard. And yet here you are standing on the threshold of divine wealth, meant not just to elevate you, but to change your entire lineage. I remember a time when I felt completely overlooked. Nothing was moving. Doors weren't opening and opportunities slipped through my fingers like sand. I questioned whether I'd misheard God, whether maybe the promise was never mine in the first place, but I didn't know then what I understand now. God often delays the visible so He can strengthen the invisible. And chosen one, that's exactly what He has done in you while you wondered why things weren't shifting. Heaven was watching the condition of your heart, witnessing your endurance, your integrity, your quiet obedience. Those qualities have formed the foundation upon which wealth can safely rest. The billions God is preparing to release are not simply currency, they are spiritual instruments, tools that will shape destinies, restore families, elevate voices, and build what hell tried to destroy. God is trusting you with this because you have proven even in your lack that you could remain faithful. And I need you to hear me when I say that this wealth is not coming to you because you chased it. It is coming because heaven has chosen you as a vessel to carry it. There is a difference, a divine one. When I think of what God is about to place in your hands, I am reminded of moments in my own life when I felt the shift before I could see it. Everything around me looked the same, yet the air felt different, as though something heavy and holy was approaching. That feeling is what surrounds you now. You may sense restlessness, a heightened awareness, or a strange calm in your spirit. Those are signs that heaven is aligning things in your favor. Chosen one, you are stepping into a corridor of divine timing where what once took years will happen in. Moments where what was locked will open, where what was withheld will be released in fullness. Not because of who you were yesterday, but because of who you have become through the process. Tonight, God whispers the same truth He whispered to me in one of my darkest seasons. You are not behind, you are being positioned, and now that positioning is complete. The shift is here, the wealth is near, and your spirit already knows. This is the beginning of something sacred. Chosen one, breathe this in, because part two will take you deeper into the revelation of why heaven has chosen you specifically for this supernatural assignment. Chosen one, there comes a moment in every destiny where the unseen hand of God begins to rearrange everything around you. And even though you cannot explain it, you can feel the atmosphere shifting. This is that moment for you. There is a divine weight resting over your life tonight. Not the kind that crushes, but the kind that crowns, the kind that signals heaven's approval and heaven's intention. I speak this with humility because I recognize the same stirring that once moved through me during a season when I felt unqualified, unprepared, and unnoticed. I didn't realize then that those were the exact qualifications God looks for. He does not search for the loudest or the most polished. He searches for the surrendered, the willing, the ones who have quietly endured trials that could have easily broken them. And that chosen one is why heaven is leaning toward you. Right now, with supernatural favor, there's a depth to your journey that many people around you have never understood. They saw the smile but not the struggle, the strength but not the shaking, the faith but not the nights. You whispered desperate prayers into the dark, hoping God was listening, yet every tear you cried became a seed. Every sacrifice a stone laid into the foundation of the future you are now walking toward. I remember a season in my own life where it felt like everything was collapsing at once. Opportunities vanished, relationships fell apart, finances dried up, and I questioned whether I had fallen out of alignment with God's plan. But the truth I learned is one I want you to embrace. God often strips away what you thought you needed so He can give you what you were truly destined for. The breaking wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Chosen one, your preparation has been long, your process intense, and your pruning deep. But that is the evidence that heaven has marked you for something extraordinary. People with ordinary callings do not endure extraordinary battles. Those chosen for divine elevation always walk roads that others cannot survive. The fact that you're still standing is the greatest proof that God has already equipped you for the weight of glory that is about to rest on your life. And this wealth, this supernatural transfer is not simply about money. It is about identity. Heaven is not just increasing your resources, it is increasing your reach, your capacity, your spiritual authority. The billions represent kingdom, influence, generational healing, restoration for everything the enemy tried to steal. I've learned through my own journey that God never releases abundance into a heart that has not first learned surrender. And you, chosen one, have surrendered more than you have ever spoken out loud. You surrendered dreams that felt too heavy to carry. You surrendered relationships that were draining your destiny. You surrendered timelines you wanted God to honor and trusted His pace instead. That surrender became a magnet for divine intervention. Heaven responds not to perfection, but to posture. And your posture has been one of quiet obedience. That is why you are stepping into a realm reserved for thee. Few who allow God to refine them in secret. There were times you looked around and wondered why others were advancing faster, receiving blessings sooner, stepping into opportunities effortlessly, while you fought just to stay afloat. But what you didn't realize is that God was building something in you that could not be rushed. Some promises require depth, some anointings require patience, some elevations require endurance, because what you carry cannot collapse under pressure. And chosen one, whether you recognize it or not, you have developed the kind of depth that attracts heaven's trust. I remember hearing God whisper into my spirit during a moment when everything seemed impossible. The words were simple but powerful. Wait, I am building you. Those words brought clarity because I understood that seasons of delay were never denials, they were divine construction zones. And now I see that same construction reflected in your life. You are being built into someone who can carry influence with integrity, abundance with humility, and authority with compassion. This is why heaven has chosen you for a supernatural wealth shift that only a select few ever walk into. Only one have the heart to receive it without being destroyed by it. Only one have the vision to see beyond themselves and use the blessing to build something eternal. Only one endure the process without abandoning the promise. And you, chosen one, are part of that one. There's a quiet power rising inside you. Now, a sense of recognition that what is coming is not random. Every sacrifice, every heartbreak, every closed door, every delay has been guiding you toward this moment of divine release. Something in you knows that you were born for more, not in a prideful way, but in a deeply spiritual way that resonates with the very core of who God created you to be. That resonance is the prophetic confirmation that heaven is drawing near. You can feel it like a pulse, like a hum in your spirit, like a truth you didn't learn but somehow always knew. Chosen one, lift your head. There is a brilliance forming around your life that cannot be dimmed. There is a shift unfolding that cannot be reversed. You are walking into a supernatural alignment where everything begins to make sense. Every battle, every loss, every victory, every test, heaven is not just visiting you. Heaven is partnering with you. This is the moment your spirit has been waiting for. Chosen one, there is a sacred truth unfolding inside. Why? Ooh, that cannot be denied. A truth that awakens when a person crosses the threshold between who they were and who God ordained them to become. You are standing at that threshold. Now the shift is not subtle, it is not quiet, it is not gentle. It is the kind of shift that rearranges destinies, breaks generational patterns, and calls forth versions of you that you have not yet met. This is why your spirit feels both stirred and stretched, pulled forward and pulled upward, because heaven is calling you into a place where your old limitations can no longer follow. And as you step into this divine atmosphere, something in you begins to recognize that the wealth, the elevation, the supernatural realignment coming your way is not an accident but an assignment. There were seasons where you questioned whether God saw you at all. Days where it felt like the heavens were silent, where prayers bounced off the walls, where effort produced nothing but exhaustion. I know that season well. Chosen one, I've walked through what felt like wilderness years, where I sowed faithfully but reaped little. Years where I showed up for people who never showed up for me. Years where I carried wounds I did not have the words to explain. But it was in those silent stretches of my story that God taught me a truth I now pass on to you. Silence is not absence. Delay is not abandonment. Stillness is not stagnation. Sometimes God quiets everything around you so you can finally hear what He has been whispering within you all along. And what He is whispering to you now is this: you are ready, not perfect, not polished, but ready. Ready for the elevation that once intimidated you. Ready for the abundance you once felt unworthy to receive. Ready for the assignment that once seemed too heavy to carry. Heaven does not wait for perfection. Heaven waits for alignment. And chosen one, your spirit is aligned in ways you do not even fully recognize. The battles you fought in silence have built resilience. The heartbreaks you survived have built compassion. The sacrifices you made have built spiritual maturity. And the nights you cried have built endurance. Nothing was wasted. Every fragment of your journey has prepared you for the magnitude of what is coming. There is a sacred pattern to God's preparation, and your life mirrors that pattern more than you realize. First comes the stripping, then the stretching, then the strengthening, and only after that comes the shifting. You have been stripped of things that were draining your destiny. You have been stretched in ways that expanded your faith. You have been strengthened through adversity that forced your spirit to grow. And now, chosen one, you are entering the shift, the divine phase, where everything accelerates, aligns, and amplifies. This is the season where heaven arranges situations you could not plan, connections you could not orchestrate, opportunities you could not foresee, and blessings you could not produce through human effort alone. I speak this with the weight of personal testimony. There was a time in my life when every door I knocked on stayed closed. I pushed, I prayed, I persisted, but nothing moved. I wondered if I'd misheard God. Then suddenly, without warning, doors I never touched swung open. People I never reached out to sought me out. Opportunities I didn't chase found me. Elevation that once seemed impossible became inevitable. It taught me a lesson that echoes in your story. Now, when heaven decides it is your turn, no earthly resistance can delay it. And chosen one, heaven has decided it is your turn to rise from the limitations that once held you. Your turn to step into a realm of abundance prepared specifically for your calling. Your turn to experience favor that feels almost unreal. Your turn to be elevated in ways that glorify God and inspire others. But even more than that, your turn to see yourself the way heaven has always seen you. Chosen, anointed, capable, worthy, and appointed for such a time as this. You are not walking into this season empty-handed. You are walking into it with scars that have become wisdom lessons, that have become strength and faith that has become unshakable. Chosen one, there is a divine weight to the wealth that is coming. Not the weight of burden, but the weight of purpose. You were not chosen to hoard blessings, but to steward them. You were not chosen to shine alone, but to illuminate others. You were not chosen to escape struggle, but to transform it into testimony. This is why your heart has always been different. When others chased status, you chased meaning. When others pursued applause, you pursued alignment. When others sought recognition, you sought truth. That purity of heart is why heaven trusts you with what so many others mishandle. The billions, the influence, the elevation, they are not rewards, they are responsibilities wrapped in divine honor. And now, chosen one, as the atmosphere around you continues to shift, as divine momentum gathers at your feet, as heaven positions you for supernatural release, I want you to breathe deeply and recognize something essential. You're not stepping into this alone. You're stepping into it guided, guarded, and graced by the one who wrote your destiny before you lived your first breath. Every step you take from this moment forward is covered. Every move you make is aligned. Every door you enter is ordained. You are walking in a season where heaven goes before you, walks beside you, and surrounds you in every direction. This is your divine moment. This is your turning point. This is your awakening, chosen one. There is a holy shift stirring around you even now, a whisper in the unseen that carries the weight of destiny. You may not hear it with your ears, but your spirit feels it responding like a tuning fork struck by the hand of God. This is because you are entering a realm where heaven's movements become your compass, where doors no longer open by effort but by divine timing, and where blessings no longer arrive by chance but by covenant. Your entire life has been preparing you for a moment when everything changes at once, and that moment is drawing near with supernatural clarity. You are not stepping into ordinary breakthrough. You are stepping into a divine unveiling, the kind that happens only when a person has endured enough refining to be trusted with rare assignments. Throughout your journey, people have misinterpreted your quiet strength. Some mistook your patience for passivity. Others mistook your humility for insignificance. They thought they saw all your potential simply by looking at you, not realizing that God hid the greatest parts of your destiny beneath the surface. You carry a depth that is not easily recognized by those who judge by appearances. I know this feeling intimately. There were years where I felt unseen even by those closest to me. Years where I held dreams no one understood, walked paths no one affirmed, and endured storms no one witnessed. It was lonely, chosen one, painfully lonely at times. But what I learned and what I see reflected in your journey is that God hides His greatest vessels until the appointed time. There is a sacred timing to everything heaven releases, and that timing is never rushed, never late. Think back on your life and you'll see it. The closed doors that protected you, the disappointments that redirected you, the betrayals that strengthened you, the delays that developed you. Every chapter Even the painful ones served a purpose. You are who you are today, not in spite of the struggle, but because of it. You stand with resilience that was forged in fire, with compassion cultivated through heartbreak, with wisdom shaped by wandering. And now heaven looks at you and says, you're ready. Not because you feel ready, but because your spirit has been trained in silence, chosen one. Your ability to survive what was meant to destroy you is proof that what is coming will not overwhelm you. You were shaped for this, molded for this, called for this. The wealth that is approaching. Your life is not simply financial increase. It is divine endorsement. It is heaven's way of revealing what has already been true about you, that you carry purpose powerful enough to shift atmospheres, bless nations, and transform generations. God does not release abundance to those who lack identity. He releases it to those who know who they are, even when the world has not yet recognized them. And you, anointed one, have been discovering your identity. Why piece by piece, moment by moment, trial by trial? There is a humility in you that heaven honors. While others begged for shortcuts, you chose endurance. While others compromised, you held your integrity. While others abandoned their faith, you clung to yours even when your hands were trembling. That posture is why supernatural opportunities are aligning for you. Heaven does not overlook faithfulness. Not the quiet kind, not the hidden kind, not the kind that cries alone but still believes. You have believed even when believing hurts. And that belief has created spiritual momentum around your life that cannot be reversed. You are walking into a season where resources chase vision, where the right people appear without you searching, where solutions find you, where favor becomes your default condition. And though it may feel surreal, though it may feel too grand, for someone who has known so much struggle, I need you to understand something deep in your spirit. You were not chosen because you were strong. You were chosen because you endured long enough for God to make you strong. And now that strength is attracting a divine transfer designed specifically for your purpose. I speak this from a place of lived experience. There was a time when I didn't understand why I had to lose so much before gaining what truly mattered. I didn't understand why blessings were delayed while battles arrived early. But when the breakthrough finally came, it didn't come in pieces. It came in a flood. It came suddenly, overwhelmingly, undeniably. In that moment, I realized that God is not slow. He is strategic, and He is being strategic with you, chosen one. The shift you feel is heaven arranging the details of your elevation. Whatever fear tries to whisper, let it fade. Whatever doubt tries to rise, let it fall. The same God who carried you through the valley is now positioning you on a mountain. The same God who held you in obscurity is now preparing to reveal you. The same God who watched you cry is now releasing joy that will wash over every dry place in your soul. This is not a season of guessing or grasping. This is a season of receiving. Chosen one, lift your chin, open your heart, steady your spirit. Heaven is moving, and tonight the hand of God is resting on your destiny in a way that marks the beginning of an irreversible transformation. Chosen one, there is a stirring in your spirit that you can no longer ignore, a gentle pressure from heaven that feels like both a pull and a push at the same time. It is the sensation every anointed vessel feels right before God launches them into a new realm of purpose. You may not have words for it yet, but something inside you keeps whispering that life as you've known it is shifting. This is not imagination. This is not Emotion. This is divine signaling heaven, notifying your soul that your season of limitation is closing and your season of supernatural expansion is opening. You have felt the edges of this shift for months, sensing that something was building beneath the surface, something that required more faith, more surrender, more courage than you have ever needed before. There is a reason for that chosen one, what heaven is. Releasing into your life requires a version of you that is fully awake, fully aligned and fully committed to the assignment placed inside you. You are not being elevated for comfort but for calling. You are not being blessed for luxury but for legacy. And while others around you may chase elevation for attention, you desire elevation for impact. That purity of intention is rare and heaven treasures it. It is why God has allowed you to walk through seasons that forced you to examine your motives, purify your desires and strengthen your resolve. You had to reach a point where your success would not change who you are, but amplify the purpose within you. Chosen one, I remember a moment in my own life when everything seemed like it was collapsing. At once, responsibilities piled up. Uncertainty clouded my vision and I felt like I was standing between who I used to be and who I didn't yet know how to become. It was overwhelming, but looking back, that season was a divine crossroads, the place where God stripped away what was no longer needed so I could rise into what was waiting. For me, you are standing at that same kind of crossroads. Now every discomfort you felt recently, every shift in relationships, every sudden ending, every unexpected beginning, none of it is random. God has been clearing the path for what is approaching. This is why your spirit feels restless at times, not because something is wrong, but because something is calling. It is the call of expansion, the call of purpose, the call of destiny unfolding before your eyes. And though it may feel intimidating, heaven would not lead you into a season you are not built to handle. You are more prepared than you realize. Your scars have become your strength. Your trials have taught you resilience. Your private battles have forged wisdom that many never gain even after a lifetime. There is a maturity in your spirit now, the kind that only comes from walking with God through storms that should have broken you but instead refined you. And because of that refinement, you are no longer who you were. Even if the world has not yet seen the shift, you feel it internally. A deeper calm, a clearer focus, a heightened discernment. These are signs of spiritual elevation. Heaven always transforms the inner world before revealing the outer blessing. And chosen one, the inner transformation is nearly complete. You may have noticed that lately your tolerance for negativity has disappeared. Your patience, CE for empty conversations, has faded. Your desire for purpose-driven living has intensified. This is not mood, this is alignment. You are outgrowing environments that once felt comfortable. You are outgrowing mindsets that once felt normal. You are outgrowing habits that once felt harmless. Growth feels like discomfort until it becomes clarity. And clarity is what God is granting you now. The clarity to see who you are, what you carry, and where you are going. Chosen one, the wealth that is being prepared for you is connected to your obedience, your integrity, your willingness to rise, even when rising felt impossible. Heaven does not release abundance recklessly. It releases abundance where it sees responsibility. And you have proven through every season of struggle that you are someone heaven can trust. This Wealth shift is not merely financial, it is spiritual, emotional, generational. It is the kind of shift that breaks old patterns and establishes new legacies. It is the kind of shift that gives you the resources to build what God placed inside your heart years ago. It is the kind of shift that positions you to bless others in ways you once only dreamed about. And the beauty is this: you won't be stepping into it alone. Heaven will walk with you, guide you, protect you, and illuminate every step. I've experienced glimpses of this kind, of divine backing moments when I took steps that seemed impossible, but somehow doors opened effortlessly, not because I was qualified, but because I was aligned. That alignment is reaching you now. You are entering a divine rhythm where things begin to unfold without strain, where opportunities begin to find you, where favor begins to surround you like a cloak. Chosen one, breathe. You are closer to your breakthrough than you've ever been. Heaven has seen your endurance. Heaven has heard your prayers. Heaven has recorded your sacrifices, and heaven is responding. The shift has begun. Chosen one, there comes a moment in every destiny-driven life when the quiet turning of the seasons becomes undeniable. You begin to sense that what once weighed you down no longer has the same power, and what once felt distant now feels as if it's standing right at your door. You are in that moment now. There is something about the way your heart has been beating lately, the way your spirit has been leaning forward as if anticipating an announcement from heaven. This inner pull is not random. It is the subtle movement of divine timing aligning around you, preparing to usher you into a realm you have never walked in before. You can feel it even on the days when everything appears ordinary, because your spirit recognizes spiritual transitions long before your eyes do. As you move deeper into this unfolding season, notice how your perspective has shifted. You look at challenges differently. Now you no longer see them as punishments, but as portals, each one shaping you with a purpose. You are only beginning to understand that growth didn't happen overnight. It happened after conversations that left you questioning your worth, after losses that forced you to choose faith over fear, after nights when prayer was the only thing keeping your mind from collapsing under pressure. These experiences worked on you quietly, chiseling away doubt, carving out discipline, strengthening your inner foundation. And now, because of that inner strength, you stand ready to receive what many desire but few are prepared to carry. There is something sacred about being prepared in private for blessings that will manifest in public. People might see your elevation but never know the weight of the nights that built it. They may admire your strength but never understand the storms that produced it. And that's exactly why heaven has kept certain details about your journey hidden. Not everyone is meant to know the depth of your becoming. Some people only see the fruit, but God knows the roots, and your roots run deep. That is why this elevation will not shake you. You have been fortified by fire, shaped by resistance, and strengthened by surrender. Chosen one, there is a uniqueness about your calling that you may have struggled with understanding. You've often wondered why your process felt harder than others, why certain doors closed for you even when you were doing everything right, why certain people left your life even when you gave them your best, why opportunities slipped through your hands even when you were ready. But what if all of it was preparation for a blessing that required you to stand alone first, so that when The elevation arrives, you will not depend on approval, but on purpose. Heaven was never interested in giving you a small assignment. That's why your training has been intense. Big mantles require strong shoulders. You may have noticed lately that old fears aren't gripping you the way they once did. Old triggers don't hold the same authority. Old insecurities seem smaller than they used to. That is what spiritual maturity looks like. Not perfection, but perspective. You are beginning to see yourself through the eyes of the one who called you. You are beginning to recognize your worth in rooms that once intimidated you. You're beginning to understand that. Divine favor is not something you chase. It is something that rests on you when you walk in alignment. And alignment is exactly where God is guiding you. Now, in my own journey, I remember seasons when everything seemed out of rhythm. I couldn't understand why doors weren't opening, why paths weren't clear, why answers seemed delayed. But now looking back, I can see how every delay carried wisdom, how every closed door was a divine shield. D, how every unanswered prayer was protection in disguise. Those experiences taught me something priceless, that heaven doesn't abandon those it anoints, it prepares them. And that preparation, though uncomfortable, always leads to elevation. You chosen one are now standing at the threshold of your own elevation. This next chapter of your life will require you to trust what you cannot see and release what no longer serves you. There will be moments when faith feels like walking through fog, unsure of the path, but certain of the guide. But trust this, heaven has never brought you this far just to leave you here. You are being positioned with precision. Doors will open because you are meant to walk through them. Opportunities will come because you are prepared for them. Relationships will align because your destiny requires connection, not isolation. Chosen one, breathe deeply and step forward with courage. The atmosphere around your life is changing. The spiritual rhythm is shifting. The divine blueprint is unfolding. And you, with everything you've endured, everything you've learned, everything you've become, are ready for what heaven is about to release into your hands. Chosen one, as you continue walking through this unfolding season, you may have realized that your spirit is becoming more sensitive to shifts that others completely overlook. You feel when the atmosphere around you tightens or lightens, when a moment carries spiritual weight, when a conversation is more than words but an assignment or a warning. This heightened sensitivity is not a burden, it is evidence of your elevation. When heaven prepares someone for greater responsibility, it sharpens their discernment long before it places the blessing into their hands. And you, anointed one, have been sensing things with unusual clarity lately because God is training your spirit to recognize what aligns with your destiny and what does not. This ability will protect you in the season you are entering, because not every door is your door. Not every opportunity is your opportunity, and not every voice deserves access to your heart. There comes a moment in the lives of all who are chosen when the familiar becomes too small. It's not that you hate where you are, it's that you cannot grow there anymore. You begin to feel an inner stretching, a spiritual expansion that cannot be contained by old routines, old expectations, or old versions of yourself. This is one of the clearest signs that heaven is pulling you upward. When God decides to elevate you, He first separates you from anything that could sabotage the new level. And though that separation can feel painful, lonely, or even confusing. It is always purposeful. You are not losing people, you are outgrowing patterns. You are not being rejected, you are being redirected. You are not being abandoned, you are being positioned. I've lived through this myself. There was a season when everything familiar seemed to fall away at once. Friends drifted, plans dissolved, paths closed. At first it felt like punishment, it felt like being stripped down to nothing. But later I realized it was protection. God was removing the noise so I could hear Him clearly. He was removing the distraction so I could focus. He was removing the weight so I could rise. That same divine pruning is happening for you now. It may not look like elevation, but it feels like it, because the Spirit always knows when God is preparing to lift someone higher. Trust that feeling. It has never lied to you. Chosen one. One of the greatest misunderstandings about divine favor is thinking it only shows up as blessings. Most of the time, divine favor shows up as lessons. The lessons that teach you to trust when you want to run. The lessons that force you to surrender when you want to control. The lessons that strengthen you when you want to break. You have lived through lessons that many would have collapsed under, but instead of collapsing, you adapted. Instead of giving up, you dug deeper. Instead of retreating, you held on. That is why heaven is preparing something extraordinary for you. Your endurance has become your evidence. Your resilience has become your qualification. Your faith under pressure has become your divine signature. There are people who never understand why God chooses certain individuals. They mistake quiet strength for weakness. They misinterpret humility as uncertainty. They assume your silence means you lack power, but they forget something vital. God does His greatest work in hidden places. You were being formed in seasons no one applauded. You were being shaped in moments no one witnessed. You were being prepared in ways no one understood. And now the shaping is starting to reveal itself. You may not fully see the transformation yet, but others do. They sense something different about you. A new confidence, a deeper peace, a rising authority that you didn't have before. That's what happens when someone steps into divine alignment. Chosen one. One of the most profound truths I've learned is that your life begins to change the moment you stop trying to fit into environments God called you out of. Some circles are too small for the destiny you carry. Some conversations are too shallow for the depth God placed in you. Some atmospheres are too heavy for the wings He is giving you. And you can feel it. You no longer have the energy to shrink yourself or dim your light or silence your voice just to keep others comfortable. That is not pride. That is awakening. You are awakening to your calling. You are awakening to your purpose. You are awakening to the truth that the world needs the version of you that you owe. Eddie hid. As you rise, something else is happening too. Your vision is expanding. You're beginning to see possibilities where you once saw limitations. You're beginning to entertain dreams that used to intimidate. You're beginning to imagine a future that once felt too unrealistic to even speak out loud. That's divine activation. God activates vision before He releases provision. He stretches the mind before He fills the hands. And right now He is expanding your imagination, because the blessing coming to you is bigger than anything your past could have prepared you for. Chosen one, do not apologize for expecting more. That expectation is not entitlement. It is prophecy. You are not reaching for something that isn't yours. You are stepping towards something that has been waiting for you. And whether others understand it or not, Your spirit knows something massive is approaching, something aligns, something appointed, something heaven sent. Make peace with your expansion, anointed one. Make peace with your elevation. Make peace with the truth that you were never meant to live an ordinary life. Make peace with the mantle resting on you. Heaven has chosen you, and heaven is not mistaken. The shift has begun. Chosen one, there is a moment in every spiritual journey when heaven begins to illuminate the truth about who you really are. And once that revelation comes, it becomes impossible to return to the smaller version of yourself you once accepted. You have been feeling this illumination recently, not as a loud declaration, but as a steady unveiling deep within your spirit. It feels like clarity rising out of nowhere, like confidence awakening, without explanation, like divine identity settling into your bones. This is not accidental. This is the fruit of every season where you chose growth over comfort, obedience over convenience, and faith over fear. Heaven is rewarding what you cultivated in silence, and now the light within you is becoming too strong for the shadows that once held you. As this inner light expands, you've likely noticed that certain things no longer resonate with you. Conversations that once entertained you now drain you. Environments that once felt familiar now feel misaligned. People you once tolerated now feel spiritually distant. This is what happens when elevation begins from the inside out. Before God changes your surroundings, He changes your sensitivity. Before He shifts your external world, He reorders your internal one.